All right, so a very good morning to you. It's Friday, June 17th, 2022. We hope you had a good holiday yesterday and looking forward to the one coming on Monday. Again, as we roll through this period in Trinidad and Tobago, let's tell you what's coming down the pike. This morning, you're joining us for today's edition of AM Prime, to be followed by today's edition of Talking Point. That's an hour and a half from now, or so, 2 hours from now, or so. But we're talking in our first segment this morning with Martin George, attorney at law in Tobago. Among other things, he's chair of the Tobago Chamber of Commerce. We're talking about a different matter with him this morning, having to do with the law and the Attorney General. Also, we share with you some stuff from around the region. We're talking in the latter half of the program about something called Know Your Flow. We will tell you what that is when we get there. Also, we share with you what's in the Newsday Tobago, what's in the Newsday Trinidad and Tobago, and the COVID-19 numbers, the Newsday question and the responses to that. All right, now let's go to our first guest, our first segment this morning. Mr. George is there. Good morning, good to see you.
Yes, hi, good morning to you, Andy, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, so how did you spend your day yesterday?
It was very productive, Andy. I always look forward to holidays like this because it gives me a chance to get quite a bit of my office work done. So it was quite productive and useful.
That's interesting. You look forward to holidays so you can get a lot of your office work done. All right, so let's get to this issue, the issue of the situation regarding the Attorney General. You're one of those who says that he has questions to answer, if not going as far as to say he should pack his bags.
Well, I mean, Andy, it's the type of scenario that demands explanation. It not just requests or asks for explanation, it demands explanation. The Attorney General is the third highest office holder in the land. Let's not forget that a cabinet cannot be constituted unless you have an Attorney General. After the Prime Minister, the first person you appoint is the Attorney General. So it's not the type of scenario that can be swept under the rug or ignored or pushed to the side. It's something that the population will keep asking for answers in respect of. And I think out of respect for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, there ought to be some greater clarity brought to the situation. While I understand the Attorney General had put out an initial statement, I'm not sure it answers all the questions. And these questions keep lingering, they keep swirling around, and it doesn't appear that they're going to go away soon. I saw the Guardian newspaper had a recent editorial where they themselves called upon him and said, look, he cannot keep this wall of silence and say, that he's not answering any more questions. Even the Prime Minister, I think, will have to eventually face the music and give the nation some answers in regard to the situation. However, I would imagine that if at all there is a question of replacing the Attorney General, I guess that would be the Prime Minister's, he would be concerned with, who would be the replacement and maybe trying to get a suitable replacement, lined up. Names like, I guess, Gilbert Peterson, Senior Counsel would come to mind, and others. But the fact of the matter is, if there is the talk of replacement, then I would imagine that is what should be concerning the Prime Minister's deliberations at this point, so that you have an announcement to make to say, well, look, this person is replacing the Attorney General if the discussions have reached that stage. I don't know what level they're at, and I saw the Attorney General has, left the country on official business. I have not seen him condescend to any details or particulars, which I think is also concerning, because at the end of the day, once you are leaving an official state business, then I think there ought to be some accountability given to the population as to, okay, where are you going? What are you going on? What is the business about? That sort of thing. As yet, I haven't seen in the public space any clarity on that either.
Yeah, and that's a huge curiosity, because just a couple of weeks before that, he went on vacation. He said he went on a family vacation.
That's right.
And so
That's
on.
correct.
So if you're going on official business, we ought to know what the business is.
Yes, and that I found to be a little bit disturbing. That it appeared to be a sudden trip. He was in Parliament the day before. Then he left the morning. And there's absolutely nothing other than it's an official business. And we heard that, Mr. Stuart Young is acting as Attorney General. But the thing is, I think there ought to be some clarity given as to what business the Attorney General is out of the country on, because he can't be there without the permission of the Prime Minister. So even from the Prime Minister's office, maybe a release could have been given saying, well, okay, this is the reason why our Attorney General has to be out of the country. You see, Andy, I'll tell you why this matter is of such, why it runs so deep. If it is, as has been reported, there are, factual discrepancies, and that's the nicest way I can put it. If there are factual discrepancies concerning your status, particularly your status as senior counsel at the time when you acted in the matter, then the question would arise as to how did these factual discrepancies occur? Is it that you did not remember or did not recall when you were appointed senior counsel? I mean, that's a matter of public record. Even the notes from the case, the evidence, the transcripts may have recorded you or reported you as senior counsel. So, I think that if there are any such factual discrepancies, and I'm not saying there are, I am giving everyone the fullest and fairest opportunity to basically give their explanation. But if there are any such discrepancies, then I think these are the things that need clarity for the nation, because it would otherwise remain on the record as a very troubling scenario in terms of your ability to recall even your own status and your own appointment as senior counsel in a matter of such moment.
Right, and even if, there are lots of arguments inside that argument, because even if he didn't have silk per se, as you all call it, the question as to how junior he was raises itself, because the Miami court and the people there would not have rejected his submission out of hand if he did not have some significant role to play in the matter. And the people who he represented said that he was much more than that, and he was involved in discussions and negotiations of one sort or another in the matter at the earlier stages. So for him to say that, well, he was merely a note taker, and that was thrown out of court all entirely. So there's some issues there. And the question is, why would he have sought to do that? Quite apart from, as I say, around the issue as to when he, in fact, got silk. And there are some people who are saying that, in fact, he had silk at the time.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, because when people are appointed to senior counsel, it's something done by the president. You are given your instrument of appointment it's a public ceremony. Everybody knows the date when this happened. Even you must know what date, what year you would have been appointed, and the records will show. So it's not something that one can escape. And that's the challenge. That's the challenge. So to then try to, if it is that one then later tries to paint your role as, oh, well, I was just a junior note taker, when a record may surface to show that you were actually senior counsel and having senior counsel involvement in the same matter, then that becomes a bit concerning for the nation.
Yeah, and the people who he represented, Quite Young and company, said they disputed his decision in the matter.
They did.
Let's talk a little bit about the call to have the matter addressed at the Council of the Law Association. So 40 attorneys have signed it. And I looked down the list and looked through the names. This is an association with thousands of representatives. Does it would raise any questions as to only 40 who signed, although the number is less than 40 to trigger the inquiry?
Right. So, the point is, those persons, I guess they would have had their reasons for wanting to invoke the Law Association's involvement in that regard. And, at the end of the day, it's their right if they wish to do so. And the rules do provide for, that type of approach to be made to the Law Association. The question is, where does it go from there? In other words, does it then now trigger what some are calling for, which ultimately is, in effect, a no confidence motion to be brought, against the Attorney General. But I saw the Law Association, at least in its initial release earlier this week, the president took a very measured stance whereby she said that, look, they need to get the full investigation going. They need to get all the facts. And I think that's a sober, sensible, mature approach to take in the matter, notwithstanding, the baying of the hounds who might be calling for blood. You still have a duty to act in a responsible, reasonable, rational way in the circumstances.
Yeah, because there were people who were wondering, within a day or two of the matter becoming as public as it did, why is the Law Association being so silent? But
yes, there are those who have raised those questions. As I said, a statement was issued earlier this week. Some have said that it's a very mild statement. The president, I think, is indicating the need for caution. So, those are the factors that one has to look at.
Going into the matter, the other issue is that this matter has been hanging fire for almost 20 years, 18 years or so. That's
the inquiry, the Piarco inquiry.
Yes.
Yes. That in itself, Andy, is, really something that I think we ought to consider with, great concern as to why these things are hanging on so long in terms of the prosecution. If you remember, the two other American co-conspirators,
Burke and Hillman,
and the other individual, they were long since prosecuted in Miami courts. They served their sentences, etc. And that has been dealt with. So from the aspect of the Trinidadians involved, I'm not sure why we have taken so long or why this matter has taken so long. And you remember, even in the Trinidad courts, there are matters that are still hanging on. They've been bedeviled by several constitutional motions, judicial review applications, etc. But notwithstanding that, there needs to be some closure brought to these matters.
Yeah, it's a kind of a mess. The matter itself taking all this time, and now you get to this point where the Attorney General is...
It's an imbroglio.
What do you want to be in a position where you might be able to attend that? So this is what will be known as an extraordinary meeting of the Law Association?
Of the Law Association, yes, indeed, yes, it would be. But of course, we wait to see what transpires there.
And it will be a general meeting as opposed to a meeting of the council of the association, right? And let's just explain the difference for people who don't know.
Well, the thing is, you see, remember, the council would just be the executive body, so to speak, whereas this now requires more than that, and it requires basically some sort of broader consensus. And of course, once a consensus position is arrived at, then of course the council can then take a decision and announce an official position of the Law Association. Of course, if persons want their voices to be heard, then of course, if a meeting is called, then they ought to attend in person and, air their views. Otherwise, those who attend are going to be the ones who end up being the representatives.
Yeah, and I go back to the number again. You would think that the matter, had a sort of greater life in a sense.
More legs than that, yes. You'd think it had more legs than that, But, the point is, I guess, persons may have their views, but may not necessarily be motivated that much to, step out from the shadows to, let their voices be heard.
Why do you think that might be the case? Because lawyers are among the most independent people in the society, in any society.
Well, the thing is, I think it's because the situation has also become politically charged. So therefore, persons are fearful and careful. So therefore, some are fearful that, look, if they step on political toes, that, they may, raise the ire and anger of, powerful politicians. And then some are careful because they may think, well, look, They don't want to ruin their chances of probably getting a state brief or a government contract or, employment from a state board, that might send them work. So, you have those who are fearful, those who are careful, but then you also have persons who are independent and robustly independent enough to be forthright and to be able to come out and call a spade a spade. Martin Daly has always been one of those exemplars in that regard, and I certainly salute him for that.
You think that there should be more of that kind of thinking? Because after all, that's one of the professions where people encourage.
Yes, and it's necessary for the society. It's necessary for the society. You can't have your senior attorneys kowtowing to politicians or political pressures or being afraid to speak out for fear of losing a state brief or not getting a state brief or, running afoul of the political directorate or the opposition or whatever. They ought to be able to stand up as independent, robust champions of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and say, hey, listen, this is what it looks like. This is how it is. And we're asking for answers. We're calling upon, the relevant parties to explain themselves, that kind of thing. But Andy, I think you have largely a scenario where, as I say, persons are fearful and careful.
What is your sense overall about the extent to which, because there's a claim, so the Prime Minister has hinted at it, if not directly, said it in one form or another, and there are the people who believe that the Law Association is sort of, at least leading figures in the Law Association have taken side politically.
Well, the thing is, of course, you can raise that as a suggestion, as a suspicion, as an assertion. But unless you have the direct, tangible evidence to prove that they are politically motivated, then it remains just that. And I am not going to delve in idle speculation, Andy, if you understand me, right? I don't have any tangible proof to say that anybody who has put their name to that petition is politically motivated. There are those who are, connecting dots and drawing conclusions. They look at the list of names and they are making their own assumptions. I don't do those things whatsoever, because at the end of the day, it's up to each individual to know what was their reason for doing so.
Yeah, but you think it provides fodder for the thoughts of some people?
It does provide fodder. And Trinidad and Tobago, this is a land of humor and rumor, and we love suspicions and conspiracy theories, and because I saw on social media lots of persons were circulating the list and say, look at the list, look at it,
look at the
draw
names.
your own conclusions, look at the names, that kind of thing. And I think that's basically no real assessment that one can give to say that, look, this is politically motivated. There are some who then, pivoted it to suggest that it's racially motivated, and I couldn't quite fathom that argument whatsoever. I stay very clear of those things, Andy. At the end of the day, there's a list. There are persons who put their names. They have asked for this, and it is their right within the law, within the ambit of the rules of the Law Association. And at the end of the day, it's the association to then decide what they do with it.
Yeah. To what extent you're familiar with the conduct of such meetings in the association? How the meetings go? Is there a lot of acrimony? Is there a lot of what transpires? How?
Well, Andy, the point is, usually you have, if one recalls the last one, which was the issue with the Chief Justice, where there was a big meeting to deal with the question of, how they're going to treat with the allegations which were made in respect of the Chief Justice. From what I understand, I was not present, but from the reports I got in relation to the meeting, yes, there was, much, strenuous argument on both sides, but at the end of the day, it's something that is carried by a vote. So, and the majority vote is what, carries the day.
In this case, what is there a number that will it goes on attendance, right? And if the majority in the room, whatever percentage of the association that it represents, once the majority votes in a certain way, the motion has to be carried, right?
Well, once you meet the threshold, the minimum threshold in terms of the rules of the association, and you have that minimum threshold in attendance, and the rules are followed, and the procedures are undertaken, Andy, then, I mean, of course, you abide by the results of the proceedings.
Yeah. And
that's why I'm saying those who are in the shadows, who might be quietly voicing their opinions, and they don't want to come out of the shadows and attend the meeting, then they have no right to complain afterwards. Because in other words, this is the place, this is the forum. If you are a member of the association, then you ought to come and have your voice heard if it is that you want to make a difference or, have your input.
Yeah, and the result, let's say, the majority votes in particular way, that simply will mean that he loses membership in the association. That's all, right? It doesn't go further than that.
No. It's not a question of losing membership. No. I mean, the fact of the vote of no confidence is just simply, it's really just to send a signal. It's really to send a signal. Because remember, the Attorney General is the titular head of the bar.
Right.
So therefore, if your bar says that they have no confidence in you, then of course that is a powerful signal. I mean, it means nothing in terms of removing him or anything of the sort from a legislative perspective. It's only, that's the prerogative of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, to make those kinds of decisions. But the point is, it does not look good. And that's where the pressure comes in.
And depending on how it goes, if it goes against him in the association, then that will impose a greater sort of responsibility on the Prime Minister to take action.
I would think so, but then look at what happened with the scenario with the Chief Justice. Remember, the association, they did bring their sanction, they did make their findings against the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice initiated legal proceedings against them. It went all the way to the Privy Council. The Chief Justice was not successful at the Privy Council level, but at the end of the day, the Law Association's sanctions did not have any power to trigger the removal of the Chief Justice, which is what some were calling for. So similarly, that's what I'm saying, Andy. Here again, it's really just a signal you are sending, and you are hoping that, it brings pressure through moral suasion and ethical persuasion. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the Prime Minister or the government or the Cabinet necessarily have to act on your motion.
Yeah, so that he could conceivably remain as Attorney General.
Yeah, you could dig your heels in. You could dig in your heels and say, look, I'm not moving. That's what the Chief Justice said, and he did so. And he's still our Chief Justice.
Yeah, no, about the Prime Minister feeling any greater responsibility to take action if the association says one thing, and he can decide.
Well, you see, the thing is, I think what our leaders rely on very heavily and very accurately is the fact that we really are a 9-day wonder type of society. So, they know that, look, all right, the matter is heated now, it's fanning the flames, Andy Johnson is talking about it on his morning show. But as far as they're concerned, by the time next week, Andy will have another guest, Andy will have something else to talk about, and the nation will begin to forget about it. So I think they count very heavily on that type of scenario, and as I say, very accurately too.
Yeah, is that a good or bad trait among us? That is part of our nature, but does it work for us in the long term?
On serious issues, no, it doesn't, because it means that we really, at the end of the day, never follow through on any serious matter to the end. We all get riled up, at the start, and everybody's talking about it and everybody's agitated, but the point is we never give it the legs to go through to say, well, look, we are going to make some meaningful change as a result. By time tomorrow or the next day, there's some new bacchanal or some new drama or some new, story that is captivating the news. Some next DJ fighting with his girlfriend or wife, or
Wow.
and these things actually motivate us and captivate our interest even more than the serious issues.
Yeah, it's interesting that you raise that because that's a big thing at the moment as well.
Well, that is what I'm telling you. That's big news. That's big news. And
Yeah.
the police fighting with people outside a fete in the savannah yesterday. Those are the things that seem to be of greater interest and significance to our population.
But it's good you raised that because I saw the thing last evening and it's curious and it's interesting from on both sides where you sit because what I understand is that the police were responding to assaults on at least one of them. I think and so the man, I think he assaulted the officer in the process of being arrested or being questioned.
Right, and you see, Andy, it comes down to the question of what is a reasonable use of force policy in response. You see, okay, so all right, yes, you take action to subdue the suspect. When the suspect is on the ground and he's clearly posing absolutely no danger to anyone else, and you see a police officer running up from a distance and, firing a kick at his head, that's where I think questions will arise. Was that a necessary use of force? And you see, and we have to be mature enough as a society, Andy, to be able to disaggregate sense from nonsense, disaggregate what is reasonable from what is unreasonable. So in other words, I would say prior to that, you can probably give a valid explanation for the use of force by the police in this scenario. That action did not appear, with respect, I mean, from what I saw and I guess what has been circulated, it did not appear to be, on the face of it, a necessary action as part of subduing the suspect.
It was not warranted.
He appeared to have already surrendered. He did not appear to be putting up resistance at that point.
And he was being subdued.
So therefore, I think that the PCA is right to launch an investigation if it's that aspect of it they were looking at. And you see, police officers need to understand the limits of their authority and power. And we have made the call repeatedly. You've seen Justice Frank Sipasad. He has repeatedly called upon police officers to be held accountable for their actions when they abuse their powers. He has called for them to be made to pay personally when they cause the state to lose matters in court, and the state has to pay, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in damages. He has made that call, and it's a call that is valid, and it's a call which ought to resonate, because I think unless and until you start imposing that type of sanction, you are going to continue to see these egregious abuses of power, because by and large, there appears to be little or no accountability or reckoning, and certainly no financial accountability that any police officer suffers for these types of actions.
Well, thank you very much, my friend Martin George. Senior Counsel.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Andy, as always. And, I always say that, these talk shows, Andy, we are playing our part to try to elevate and raise the level of discourse in the nation. Of course, we love our Pikong, our Mobilang, our Old Talk, our Bacchanal, but sometimes there are serious issues which need to be disaggregated, discussed, and analyzed in a serious, mature, rational level. And that's why I always try to make the time to attend your show whenever you invite me, because I think we need to play this role in the nation to bring some balance to the scales.
Thank you very much. We will keep talking.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so we take a break. When we come back, we share with you the numbers for COVID-19 on this day, as well as look at the Newsday question and the responses to that. Stay with us.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. a future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Did you know that 1 in 4 children has an undetected eye problem? Their vision can change dramatically every year, from the blackboard to digital screens. 80% of learning starts with what our eyes perceive. Keep your child's future in focus at Ferreira Optical. Get complete eyewear for kids starting at only $695. Come into Ferreira Optical today. Conditions apply.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fanzone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to the program. Up ahead, our discussion with Ramesh Ramleen, PhD. He is the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. We'll be talking about what's to happen with this year's edition of the Trade and Investment Convention. I think they call it the TIC. But right now, let's take a look at where we are with the numbers for COVID-19, matters incidental there too, and then the Newsday question and responses. So here are the numbers this morning. 153,873, that's the totally recovered patients. 7,627, the total active positive cases. The deaths from COVID-19, as at the end of the day yesterday, 3,968, or probably the day before, because yesterday being a public holiday, I don't think anybody did any counting where they do that in the Ministry of Health. 165,468, the total positive cases reported since we began the counting on March 12, 2020 to the present time. 324, that's the new positive cases reported in the last 24 hours when that counting was done. And 142, the number of persons in what is called the parallel healthcare system dealing with COVID-19. Let's move now to the Newsday poll, the question and the responses. And the question is, do you think 4% is a better wage offer for government workers? That's what is on the table now for the police and some other sections of the public sector where the unions are, well, striving for what they see as a better deal. One response is that inflation is about 30%. Gas raised 4 times. Explain to me how a $4 raise is going to help public servants while the 41 thieves in the Red House have all the perks, including gas, food, and entertainment allowances. Just to say that it's not our view to refer to anybody as such. That is an exact reading of what is there. That's how they're described by this responder. Another response, I think politicians should have been offered the 2%, but they done fix their pockets while everyone else struggling to buy bread. Response number 3. Yes, that is better than the 14% offered by the UNC 9 years ago. I'm not sure where that came from. And for the final response is lucky them. I have gotten, well, you see that there's 0.000% in almost 8 years, and that ain't changing anytime soon. LOL. So that's the question, and those are the responses from the Newsday poll as published this morning. Let's get now to Dr. Ramdean, the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. The Trade and Investment Convention 2022. What's to be had? What's up? What can we look forward to? Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Johnson, and good morning to your listening audience and viewing audience as well. Well, TIC is taking place this year again, once more from a physical standpoint. We got the endorsement and blessing from the Ministry of Trade, the Minister of Health, to engage the process. We are adhering to all health and safety protocols. As a result of that, we are not having a show as large as we did in the past. We keep into about 50% capacity with regards to the exhibitors. So we have about 170 exhibitors participating at the show. It's taking place at the 25th to the 27th at the Center of Excellence. We sold out. It's oversubscribed. We have participants from approximately 32 countries, not just as exhibitors, but as buyers as well. We have exhibitors and buyers coming from Africa, Europe, North America, Caribbean, Latin America. The largest continent actually coming from Asia, with India bringing approximately 25 business people to the Trade and Investment Convention. It's an exploratory type mission, they said, where they're looking to meet business people from Trinidad, looking at investment opportunities in Trinidad. Of course, they're looking to sell their products and services to Trinidad and the wider Caribbean, because they recognize this TIC show and investing in Trinidad as well allows them the opportunity to expand their horizon throughout the Caribbean region based on the CSME framework, as well as the trading relationship we have with our partners, North America, Europe. If you come and you invest here, produce here, you can enter this market duty-free. So it's a lot of opportunities, a lot of things happening at TIC, and I would ask all persons from Trinidad, register and come and visit the show and see what's on offer.
And this is the first in the last couple of years.
Yes, and the last 2 years we didn't have a physical TIC. We had a virtual platform where we hosted our B2B engagements webinar series, and that was very successful. And we are keeping that element to the show. So the show is a hybrid. We do have a physical show, but we continue to have the webinar series as well as a lot of the B2B meetings virtually. We have a lot of buyers who wouldn't even be coming to Trinidad, but they want to meet with their partners in Trinidad and Tobago, and that is taking place on the virtual platform. We do have physical meetings at the show as well. So it's a hybrid, it's a combination of both things taking place at the same time.
How in a situation like this, I mean, let's talk generally first. Normally, under normal circumstances, what is involved in planning and executing an event like this?
Yeah, well, TIC, we want TIC to be a business week in Trinidad and Tobago. So we start planning TIC 2023 already. So it's a year-long process. We have dedicated staff committed to this process. But as you're alluding to, it's really a significant logistical kind of event to plan, because you have to bring in buyers, you have to book hotels, you have to book a number of vendors. You know, I've been telling people, apart from the gains for the exhibitors and the buyers of the show, TIC generate close to between $10 and $5 million for the small business operators who are building booths, the truckers, the designers, all these different things. When we work up the statistics and showcase what could be had for the small operators in Trinidad and Tobago, tourism is a great possibility. We have this year registered to come to the show over 200 persons from outside of Trinidad and Tobago come into the show. If 100 of those people come back at some point in time to bring their family, because their stay in Trinidad is such an interesting and rewarding one for them, they decide to bring their family, 3-4 family members. You're talking about 400 or 500 people more coming to Trinidad and Tobago as tourists, and each one of them spending, if you have to follow the statistics, a tourist on the average will spend $1,000 US on your country. Easily, you could see the kind of money and the income generated, and if we do this thing the right way, from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective, not just a TTMA perspective, investors could benefit, business opportunities, local consumers will benefit with a wider range of goods and services available to them. So it's a year-long planning process. The TTMA is committed to this process. Our partners are committed to this process. The Ministry of Trade, Investities on board with us, Exim Bank, Bal Roops, First Citizen, you name it. We have quite a few of them on board, Hardco and the like. So it's a year-long process in terms of planning, and it culminates with the execution of the TIC on the trade floor.
Yeah, what are the elements that make it be executed the right way?
Well,
what are the elements that have to be there?
Right. The elements that have to be there is to ensure that we have the right buyers and the right exhibitors to ensure the success for the show. You could have all the exhibitors at the show and the buyers are not there. The exhibitors would not be pleased with the outcome. Their major objective for participating in the show is to increase their turnovers, increase their exports, increase their production, and that wouldn't materialize by just showcasing at an event like this. It would only materialize if they showcase and they get buyers to purchase and believe in the products and the offerings they have. Some people are coming to launch products. We have manufacturers who are relatively large, like the Blue Waters Group. One would say, well, why would they come to showcase in Trinidad at the TIC? Because they already captured the majority of the market share. But they want to acquiesce with their consumers. They want to launch new products. They want to touch, feel, and engage with their consumers. So they want to get feedback. They want to know what they do, the things that they're doing. So that kind of success is important for the show, and we work diligently hard at the TTMA to ensure that we get the right buyers, we get the international buyers, we get the consumers, we get the B2B engagements working optimally, the seminar engagements working optimally. So it's really and truly a 3-day long period where business of all forms and fashion could be engaged and entertained.
Yeah,
investment opportunities as well.
Yes. Is there a theme? There's usually a theme for this year's event?
Yes, the theme is business resilience this year. As you know, we passed through the last 2 years in a pandemic. So our major objective, and I'm proud to say as I speak to you today, Andy, this morning, I have had none of my manufacturers come to me and say they're closing up their doors. Some of them have downsized and that kind of thing. So as a result of that, we felt that this year team should be business resilience, how we could get business to continue to survive in this environment and grow their operations. But our major objective for 2022 was survival. And I think we did that. And I think we surpassed that. If you look at the statistics provided by the Minister of Finance at the midterm, he would have alluded to the fact that the non-energy manufacturing sector at the end of 2021, their figures grew so much so that it mirrors what took place at the end of 2019 at the pre-pandemic period. So the things that we have done at the TTMA, the vaccination drive, the lobbying to get curfew passes to allow manufacturers to open, assisting with some challenges that we had on the port, all these things act as a catalyst to allow business to continue. So this TIC, coupled with other things that we're doing right now, like missions. We're taking a mission to Suriname. We not too long came back from Guyana. Allow our manufacturers to have market opportunities to sell their products, showcase their products, and grow their exports.
So, I mean, that is a success story in itself. You say that there was no noticeable or even any actual shutdowns of manufacturing plants during these 2 years that we were under this kind of strain.
Well, let me qualify that. My members,
yes,
there may be manufacturers who don't belong to the TTMA And we know at the retail level, we know what happened in a lot of the malls. So, you saw business operations close their door, especially at the retail level.
Yeah.
Some of the casinos and those kind of things would have closed their door, but they are not really my members. I'm talking from a manufacturing perspective. A lot of them did a lot of things to pivot to survive. They reduce output, they furlough employees, they did a number of different things. They, instead of producing 10 lines, they look at the most profitable lines and concentrated on that. But I can say safely that none of them came to me and said they're closing up their doors because of the COVID situation.
Yeah, so in a sense, what I'm getting from what you're saying there to some extent is that it's better to be a member than not a member of the TTMA.
Of course, I wouldn't argue against that at all.
Yeah. We said earlier that, well, it's not just about business and trade and so on. The thing is built in such a way that, people are sort of invited to look at what obtains here for visitors and for coming, quite apart from having to do anything other than enjoy what we have available for visitors. So, and that's part of, so that is a message that is integral to the TIC on an annual basis.
Yes, definitely. We're asking people, we have 3 days of TIC. 2 days are predominantly business to business days, which is the Thursday and Friday, the 25th and the 26th, and the 27th is the consumer day, where we open it up to the general public. We're asking people to register. And the reason for that is that registration is free and it will allow you free entry in the show. But we want to manage the crowd into the hall this year. Normally, Andy, we would have about 17,000 people passing through the floor over the 3 days. We are asked by government, we are asked by the ministry, and even without being asked, we are trying to be very diligent and understand the times that we're living in. So we're trying to manage the crowd into the halls. And we give the undertaking that we will probably keep it at about 8,000 over the 3 days, wow, which works out to be about 2,500 per day coming into the hall. And we have to manage that process. So that's why we're asking people to register. Register will guarantee you your access into the hall. Of course, if you don't register, there's a small fee to pay to access, to register you on the day, because we have to hire people to do those kind of things. I think it's about $40 or something like that. But once you register and pre-register in advance, you will that almost guarantee you access into the hall over the 3 day period. So we're asking people to register. Remember, as I said, we have a large contingent coming to Trinidad as well, and we're going to give those guys a priority because they would have registered. Local people, we love to have you there. We want to have you there. Just work with us, register, and that will give you access to the hall. So you can come any day. Even if you're a consumer, we still give you consideration to come in on the buyers day as well, because you may want to come and see what is on offer on those days as well. There are many offerings for the consumers and the buyers. There are many giveaways, product launch, able to network. It's the only time, Andy, in Trinidad and Tobago that you have a business forum like this, that you have key stakeholders at the table where you could come and meet people from customs, TTBS, Export TT, Ministry of Trade, Exim Bank. You could get information on foreign exchange availability for the SMEs in Trinidad and Tobago. You can get information pertaining to the offerings, the fiscal incentives offered by the government, the certification grants offered by Export TT, even grants and offerings by the Caribbean Export Development Agency, because they are present at the show as well. And of course, any assistance that you need, we at the TTMA will be there to assist you as well.
Yeah.
Invest TT is also on the floor.
And what is the deadline date by which people should register?
Well, all now, the show is taking place, as I said, on the 25th of August. So you have up until the 24th of August to register.
Up to the day before.
We have at this point in time, I checked it this morning, we have over 1,500 people already registered. So if we look at the trends in the past, this number is significant, because you see the majority of people registering 2 weeks to the show. I've never seen this far out from the show that we have over 1,500 people registering. So it tells me that there's a lot of interest. There's an impetus for what is happening. People want to come back out and engage in this process, because TIC offer a lot for people, a lot for the business community, a lot for consumers, a lot for buyers. So people are very much interested in what is happening at the TIC.
Yeah, I want to ask you two questions. I guess some quick responses, not necessarily centrally on this. One has to do with the recent visit to Guyana. Is it too early to ask what may be some of the signs of positive outcomes from them? And so there was positive reporting on the way in which the mission was received by their Guyanese counterparts and so on.
So we went on this mission on the cusp of a lot of anti-Trinidad sentiments being expressed in the media by the vice president and significant players, the chambers in Guyana. So we knew what we were coming up against. So our strategy was to go there and let them know, listen, Trinidad and Tobago is about business. It's not just coming here and taking opportunities from the Guyanese people. It's about cross-border business for both sides, and we understand that there are some trade elements, and we did our homework, we prepared ourselves, we worked with the Ministry of Trade and identified where some of these bottlenecks lie with regards to goods coming from Guyana. We signed an agreement with the chamber across there. So we went there really and truly prepared to engage any kind of obstacle towards our presence in Guyana, and I must say it worked tremendously for us. I was very fortunate to meet with the president and the vice president, and after that conversation, I left feeling that they are ready to work with the business community, the private sector, and of course government to alleviate all the negativity that was surrounding the discussion between both sides. We took over 23 business people, and I could say at this point in time that 19 of those business persons at this point in time would have had some kind of success with regards to sourcing materials from Guyana or new purchase orders, and some of them are signing on the dotted line. Some of them also engage in investment opportunities, joint venture, purchase of warehousing. So some kind of business opportunity that was created for them materialized as a result of this visit. So much so that we are going back at the end of December when Guyana is having their show similar to TIC and taking a delegation to showcase at that show. We are in constant contact with the Guyana Manufacturers Association, who are working with us to alleviate some of the trade barriers that exist. And we are slowly removing some of those obstacles. We are working with the Ministry of Trade. The Minister of Trade is working diligently with us to remove these obstacles. We are thankful for the political visit that took place not too long ago, and that as well help alleviate some of the challenges that we had, because we've gotten the feedback at the political level that they want to work with us, they want to work with the business community, and I think if we put our heads together, we can move in a direction where both countries can benefit from the process.
All right, I think you sort of alluded to the other question I had in mind. What is an example of what they call non-tariff barriers that works not in their favor?
Right. So when you're shipping your products into a particular country, the major cost to you at the border would be the tariff, the duty to come into the country. But if a product is produced in Guyana or produced in Trinidad and shipping throughout the Caribbean region, all things being equal, they're supposed to be allowed duty-free quota entry into the territory. But what you find happening sometimes, Andy, is that countries find innovative ways to keep the products from coming in. So in the past, you would have had a country stopping a product coming from another country because they impose something called a Kronkork tax, for example, meaning that you're allowed to ship a bottle of something into the country, but on the assumption on the cork, because they're saying that you want to protect your environment and health and safety and littering and those kind of things. So those are the innovative ways people create these non-tariff barriers. With regards to their situation where people make allegation about protecting their fauna and their beauty, and as a result, they don't want to contaminate your bees, so bringing honey into your country, and a number of different things come out. Jamaica at one point in time raised issues about Trinidad and Tobago fish going into there has a certain level of mercury into it, so it's health and safety considerations. I have had Andy, a manufacturer, he was shipping his product to a particular CARICOM countries for years. And he called me and told me that, and this is a good example, I just want to give it to you, that he was having some challenges clearing his product in a particular country. And when we did our investigation, they said the labeling was wrong. And when we inquired, because the labeling hasn't changed in over 15 years, the label had a product made in TNT, and the customs in that country was questioning whether TNT is a country. So those kind of things come up ever so often, and you have to work to resolve them. And that is what the TTMA is here for. Thankfully, we're able to resolve, I would say, 90% of the challenges that come our way for our members.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Ramesh Ramdeen, PhD, CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, about this year's edition of the Trade and Investment Convention. Thank you very much.
So, Andy, before I go, people who want to register, go to ttma.com/TIC/buyers and register. Free to register, free entry to the show. Or if you have any challenges, call us at 675-8862, extension 223. Speak to Shana, or 233, speak to Brittany. We will resolve all issues for you and allow you hassle-free entry into the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Okay, all the best with that. Now let's take a quick look now at what's happening around the region. We go to Guyana. Interestingly, much of the talk had to do with that, where the Ministry of Health has begun vaccination of children between 5 and 11 years old. Does that sound familiar? News Source Guyana tells us more.
So far, just over 150 children in that age group have been vaccinated against COVID-19. The Ministry of Health is hoping that more parents will take their children to get vaccinated for greater protection against the virus. The Health Ministry will be working with the Ministry of Education to encourage parents to grant permission to get their children vaccinated. Meanwhile, the number of active COVID-19 cases in the country now stands at more than 1,000. In the past month, the Ministry of Health has seen a new climb in new cases and is convinced that the fastest spreading variants, though milder, are responsible for the increase.
The variant that we have circulating, or the subvariant that is circulating, is more than likely the BA2 subvariant of the Omicron. And this particular subvariant is highly infectious. So if people are in close proximity to someone who is infected, they would get infected themselves. And even if you had a previous infection but with another variant, then with this particular strain of the virus, you can get reinfected.
While the number of new cases has been climbing, the hospitalization rate remains low.
And in addition to that, we are encouraging them to get vaccinated, because persons who have been vaccinated are getting a milder form of the disease, and many of them do not require hospitalization. But so it's very important that those persons who had their first doses, they come back and get their booster doses. And right now, we are giving second booster doses for those persons who need them.
Guyana removed many of the COVID-19 restrictions 2 months ago, but citizens are still being urged to protect themselves. That's according to the Minister of Health.
So what we are advising people is to make sure they take the precautions, especially if they're in an indoor environment where the air is stagnant. They need to take those precautions of wearing masks, keeping distance. These are, things that they can do.
Guyana still has one of the highest vaccination rates in the region.
Oh, well, that takes us up to the top of the hour. We take a break. When we come back, we're talking about something called Know Your Flow. We talk with somebody representing the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society, and then the president of the organization called the Helping Her Foundation. We'll tell you much more about it when we get back. Stay with us.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the parish office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
There's a taste in the air everywhere. Feel the vibe, cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich, and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy your treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and
Olympics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white, and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
It may seem like the hardest thing to do right now, but we all need each other to wear a mask, wash our hands, watch our physical distance, and stay at home. We need you safe. Together we can make the difference. Together we can curb the spread of COVID-19. So let's be responsible in our actions. The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to the program. We'll just tell you that our discussion now has to do with something called Know Your Flow. Alejandra Mendez, she's the Community Liaison Officer for Monitoring and Evaluation Officer at the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. They're involved in this project, in this initiative, Know Your Flow. Good morning.
Good morning, Andy, and good morning to our viewers.
All right. Well, it's good to have you. So let's talk about what this is and what it means.
Well, Know Your Flow is a menstrual health and hygiene program that was born out of the, assessments that we did on the ground during the COVID-19 pandemic. As Red Cross, we always have hygiene initiatives. However, during the pandemic, it was really notorious, the challenges that women were facing in terms of the menstrual health, not only locals, but also migrants. So that's how we started to, try to figure out how we could best benefit women based on the needs that we saw on the ground. And that's how Know Your Flow was born.
Right, so make the connection for us between the effects of the pandemic and menstrual health.
Right, so during the pandemic, many women lost their income, their livelihoods. So one of the challenges was to have access to products. And if you don't have access to products, that will immediately affect your health. And not only your health, but your mental health as well, not physically, but also is the stress, it affects your well-being. Many women have challenges with water as well. So that is, additional to, so that there are many issues. For example, for migrant women, is access to health, the health system, and their issues. So we're talking about access to health, access to products, access to water, and we also notice that women have a real need to understand their biological function. It's amazing when you realize that a lot of women don't really understand their body and what happens during menstruation and why the things that happened. So this is how we decided to engage in such a broad program.
Can you talk a little bit about some of what happens that some women aren't aware? What happens with
That's right. That's right. Some women are not.
With your rhythm, is that one way to look at it? The rhythm of your cycle and so on.
It's not only the rhythm, but for example, why the period does not come, why it comes so frequently, the flow, how often do they have to change their materials. There's a lot of gaps in terms of knowledge. So yeah, that is problematic because it happens to you every month.
Yeah, and how is it found out? By what means this becomes obvious, and how is it that this program was invented, is it?
Yeah, well, as I said, we were on the ground. We were actually one of the few organizations on the ground during the pandemic. We visit communities. We did about 700 assessments, and this is in-person assessments, and talking to women and their needs, saying, okay, I really need, sexual and reproductive health. Although they don't say it that way, but they're like, okay, I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
And they will tell you the stories. They're like, well, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. So it's of having these conversations with women all the time, or with girls, for example, when girls enter puberty, sometimes mothers don't feel they have enough tools to teach them what is happening,
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of taboos around menstruation. A lot of women still keep their things private.
Talking about it is an issue.
Yes. So for some women, it's still something that is very personal, and they don't speak about it. And sometimes they have a problem that might be easily solved, but because of the secrecy around it, it becomes something major. So one of the objectives of the program is we hope to raise awareness, not only for women, but for men, not only women and girls, but for men and boys as well. We are planning to do a baseline assessment. This will be the first baseline assessment in Trinidad and Tobago that is going to be so comprehensive. So we are covering 5 main issues, as I said: water and sanitation, education, access to health, the psychosocial part of it, and access to materials. So we are hoping to...
What was the last one?
Access to materials.
Access to materials.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are hoping to really find out the intersectionalities between all these factors and culture, poverty, how does that, how women are affected at different levels of the society, how the most vulnerable women in the society are affected. We forget women that are in condition of, that are in prison, we forget about them. Are their needs being met? Or, for example, women that are homeless. How do we address those women in real vulnerable positions,
Well, let's talk about women in prison. What are, kind of explain what are the realities in addressing these issues?
We don't know. So this is what we want to find out. The baseline assessment is to find out the needs of women at in the various layers of the society. But we focus more on vulnerable communities in the society. And as I said, some of those vulnerable communities are women and girls in situation of imprisonment, homeless women in mental institutions. So, those people that we really don't think about.
Yeah, and so what is the nature of a baseline assessment? How you do that?
Okay, so how do we do that? So we develop a tool, which is a questionnaire that assesses various sectors. So as I said, we will assess facilities, for example. Are the facilities meeting women's needs? Do they have, for example, something as simple as how to dispose of menstrual materials? Do they have it or they don't? We don't know. Some schools don't have them. Some sports facilities don't have them. So what is happening there? So simple things. Also, do they have access to materials? Do they have access to health in case that they have a problem? So, and not only for them, but for everybody in general. Do they have the knowledge to manage their, their menstruation? Those kinds of
Yeah, not necessarily
questions.
the cycle, but the flow of it and so on.
Exactly. So that's what we are hoping to do. And the overall objective, I should say, is that we want to, together with other organizations like Helping Her Foundation, like Edgewell, we want to draft a national policy. And we hope that more organizations join, because we know that a lot of organizations are, putting their efforts into period poverty. We want to go a little beyond that, but we want organizations to join us to draft a national policy on menstrual health and hygiene. So this is the overall goal of Red Cross.
To the extent that you can talk about it for them, what is the Helping Her Foundation about?
Helping Her Foundation is a beautiful organization. They have been working for a few years on period poverty. They gather donations of menstrual materials, and they go to different, to women's shelters, to orphanages, and to vulnerable communities to give access to menstrual materials to women in need.
Yeah. Let's just switch to the other sex now with men. If we're talking with women, we're talking about women, we're talking about menstrual issues.
Men.
What is the male equivalent of that?
Right, so what is happening to men and boys is very important. Why? People say, well, menstruation is a woman matter, right?
Yeah.
But really it is, but it is not only a woman matter, because, men are fathers, are sons, they have sisters, but most importantly, as you know, policymakers are mostly men.
Okay.
Right? And also, so women's destinies basically are in the hands of men.
Depending on decisions by men.
On male decision makers.
Yeah.
Also, when we talk about engineers and who designs facilities, who designs bathrooms, for example, are males. Mostly are males. So if they don't understand menstruation, we cannot really speak about an equal society when we have 48% of the society doesn't understand the main biological need of the 51%. So this is why we want to include men and boys, because boys are going to become decision makers, engineers, and when they design a policy or they design a facility, they need to understand the needs of everyone. So
yeah, it's fascinating to think about what you're thinking about there. So the way in which a facility looks, and how it is sort of apportioned, or what was the term? I mean, how the facilities inside there are designed. Those things have to be sort of become the preoccupation of the designers and the builders, which are men.
That's correct, mostly.
Yeah. So it's not about men's flow.
No, but we believe that it's important for men to understand the flow. and not only, we are doing, Andy, a very interesting study. So part of this, what makes this program so exciting is that we're using participatory research, where we want people to really own the program, where we really want to hear the people's voices. So one of those, to give you two, we are launching next week a program for a challenge for schoolgirls and boys, where girls have to draw a character that they want, of how to see, a character that represents them, to be the image of the campaign. To be the image of the program. They also have to provide 5 questions that they have around menstruation. That's the competition for girls. With boys,
5 questions that they have around the
that's right. And for boys, we are asking them to provide 5 words that come to their minds when they think about menstruation, and 5 questions that they would like to know about it. And this is the same challenge for men. And we have been doing this already in some outreach, and the outcomes of that little tool is really fascinating. So for example, a lot of men would like to know why their wives get so moody around this period, and if it really is so painful as it seems to be. Some want to feel the pain. Some, have a lot of questions around it, like, okay, why is it that, they have to teeter-totter around their wife or their partner,
Tiptoe, as we say.
Tiptoe, tiptoe around them. So, it is very interesting what comes out of when you start asking questions. So we hope that this is going to be, a fascinating
kind of study.
Yes.
Because it's sometimes these things become part of our culture or cultural understandings and what we bring to our daily living and understanding. Because I've known a lot of cases in which a man will say to another man, "Why are you getting on so? You've seen in periods or what?"
Exactly.
And it comes from this notion that when it's that time of the month for a woman, she is, crotchety and no way to explain it.
Yeah, and I think that it's part of that as they don't understand how hormones work and how, that hormone game will affect your personality. So what they don't know is that at some point during your period, during your cycle, you have the happy hormone, which, which it makes you. Some people will say, "Oh, you're glowing. You're so. You feel so different today." It's because that the happy hormone is kicking in.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's the flip side of that when it's bad.
So it's I'm not a doctor, but as my own experience, I can tell you that you go through so many different feelings during that time. It's pain, it's discomfort, is your energy levels are low, and for every woman it's different. But I haven't met the first woman that feels excited because she got her period. So we are trying to see what is happening, what are women's perceptions, a lot of women think, for example, this has come out, that it is a cleansing.
Yeah.
Which assumes that your body is dirty and it needs to cleanse itself. That is
not so.
No, it is not. That is, it is not that way, It's a biological function of your body. It's not to clean yourself. You are not dirty.
Yeah. So to get that thought out of the
exactly.
mind of
so we need to understand, that is one, but there are many taboos around menstruation and around what woman can or cannot do. And we really want to figure out what that is. We don't know yet. We have, glimpses, but we really want to do a broad study to understand that.
Yeah. How is it that, how is it that this is something that the International Red Cross, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ICRC, that's what it's called. How is it that they came upon a program such as this?
Well, actually, IFRC approaches menstruation from the WASH perspective, which is water and sanitation, which is the 3 pillars. Access to water and facilities, access to materials, and access to education. Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross is adding a few things into it. One is advocacy, because we want to push for policy. One is the mental health and well-being. So we're going a little beyond, and we are hoping that this pilot in Trinidad informs other Caribbean islands and other countries. So we are, in a way, menstruation is relatively new in terms of studying it. It's about 10 years that, humanitarian workers, scientists, researchers are starting to focus a little bit more on menstrual health, because before it was part of, I mean, it's still part of sexual and reproductive health, but now it's gaining momentum.
Yeah, that it could stand on its own as an area for understanding, for greater study.
Exactly. So we could say that we are right there in that trend. That is just, countries are just starting to trying to understand what is happening in the society to be able to, one, inform policy, and two, better impact women and girls, the beneficiaries, to create, sometimes we create policies in vacuums.
Yeah.
And we are trying to avoid that by bringing data, by doing what we call an evidence-based interventions.
Right. Because it's fair to say that in a lot of cases, without knowing what the challenges are, these things affect productivity. It affects people's personality.
It affects marriages. It affects how you relate to your kids. It affects how you relate to your co-workers. It definitely affects you, especially when you are having issues. And you don't speak about it, and you don't seek, a lot of women do not seek medical help.
It's still taboo.
It is. So something is wrong with me because, so a lot of women do not seek medical help. So if you feel a pain, you go to the doctor. But if something is going really wrong with your period, you don't feel that, you have to go and explain it. And it's embarrassing. And the question is why?
Why should it be?
Why should it be? For example, I've have members of the LGBTQI community, when they go to try to explain the issues to the medical workers, they get, it is very uncomfortable for them. So, we want to raise awareness on those things. We cannot continue creating shame around the subject.
And some people get isolated or get treated in a way that it's just their lifestyle is blamed for this, if it weren't for your lifestyle.
Exactly. We need to understand too, for example, people with disabilities, women and girls with disabilities, what are their challenges? So those are a few of the things that we are trying to address.
So this is something that it's a pilot in Trinidad and Tobago or in the Caribbean for the
we starting it here in Trinidad and Tobago. We are hoping that if we do a good job, that it could be the findings and the methodology could be applied in other countries. Because, the Caribbean, except for Jamaica, the Caribbean has no data on menstrual health and hygiene.
Wow. Yeah.
Zero. So we don't know in the Caribbean what is happening.
So as far as these things are concerned, we're living in a huge vacuum on matters such as these.
Exactly. And there are many, Feminine, which is an organization that is doing a great job as well. They did an assessment, but, it wasn't, so, because you need resources, and this is the other thing, we want something that is sustainable as well, because some organizations are trying, but there are not enough resources for people to really develop, a comprehensive study. However, there are many organizations, the Family Planning Association, they are working on period
they're
poverty.
Part of this? They're part of this initiative?
Not yet. We are in conversations, but not yet.
All right.
But they are already doing something on period poverty, some interventions. But period poverty, from our perspective, is not sustainable. We need to address it from a broader...
Much broader perspective. All right. Well, let's see where you go with that. Let me just ask, you have a time by which a policy statement maybe forthcoming on going to whoever in the government?
Yes, we are hoping that in about a year, we are going to have to be able to produce a draft.
Yeah.
As I said, we are doing an assessment that is going to be both online survey, and we are doing community visits because a lot of people don't have access to.
Yeah, so you're going to where the people are?
Yeah, we are going to where the people are. Yeah. We are also doing 40 focus groups with different key sectors, and we are doing as well in-depth interviews with experts and people from the health.
All right.
Healthcare workers, professionals, academics.
It's a much more fascinating discussion that I could have imagined that it was going to be. We have lots to talk about still, but thank you very much for this intervention.
Thank you for having us.
Alejandra Mendez, Community Liaison Monitoring and Evaluation Officer with the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Well, that's our broadcast for this morning. Let me just show you what's on the paper this morning. Newsday, the Trinidad and Tobago Newsday, the PSA to meet with the CPO today, and the pensioner dies in a fire at the building known as Sharford Court on Charlotte Street in Port of Spain. So that's the headline there. Well, more cricket stuff on the back page. And the Weekend Tobago Newsday, overcoming 80 years of grief. A man recalls what happened with a landslide that almost wiped out his entire family. Those things and more in these publications. But I'm Andy Johnson. Well, coming up in half an hour, the guys, the twins, Shah and Small, today's edition of Talking Point. Well, I'll be back here at 10 o'clock with a second edition of 10 Questions with Professor Winston Sweet, talking about overhauling the education system we have in Trinidad and Tobago. For now, thanks for watching. We see you around.